Have you ever thought about writing a book? Have you written a book? Have you ever looked at all the areas that go into writing a book? Not just the work of the book, but all the other things. And our guests today are from PR by the Book, and I'd like to welcome Marika and Doug Flatt. How did this all get started? How long have you been doing this? And when did you guys know that you were going to be a book publishing company?
I worked in the same field for 7 years before we started PR by the Book. So I was in a small business here in Austin that was doing the same thing on a nationwide basis. So literary publicist. And I stayed there for 7 years until a time where I knew it was time for me to go out on my own for a lot of different reasons. I had the confidence to do it because I had just recently won a very prestigious book publicity award, and I had a lot of contacts, and I honestly had no doubt that it would work. And my idea, but this just goes to show how Doug and I have different personalities. We think about different things in different viewpoints. My idea was to go out like as a freelancer. And Doug said, no, we're going to set this up as a business. This is going to be PR by the Book. We're going to do all the things. We're going to have a website. We're going to do LLC. We're, going to set it up as if this will be a business more than yourself. And so I was like, okay, let's do that. And so the first, let's say year and a half, I was really taking on not literary work. I was doing small business work on the PR side. I didn't want there to be any conflict of interest where I was coming from. And so we had a good, year and a half where we could just kind of get everything laid out, good foundation. And we just knew as a couple that this was the right time. We had young kids, and we knew that it was going to be a good solution to life balance, work balance for us.
Entering into this as a family business, what do you think the top 3 things that have made you and Marika successful in business?
Well, I think, one of the first things that comes to mind is just our strengths and weaknesses offset each other perfectly. Like we in some ways, I feel like we were kind of accidental entrepreneurs, like in terms of working together. But it turns out, when we actually started working together, that we realized that, our strengths and weaknesses as it relates to running a business complement each other perfectly. And I think that's probably the number one thing. And, just like what makes a good, healthy marriage is communication. And, being able to communicate, efficiently and for the longest time, I think, us really being able to understand, it kind of goes back to the first one, but us being able to understand where our strengths and weaknesses are, where our lanes converge, and really be able to see that and kind of know that. And we have that down on paper in writing of like, okay, this is my role. This is your role. This is our joint roles. And that's, when we talk to other couples that are either in business or thinking about business, that's one of the first things I always say is like, be clear on that, because that's really, really important.
And it helps that I don't want to do his stuff and he doesn't want to do my stuff.
That's true.
What would be the best advice you would give another husband and wife going into business with each other?
Well, we didn't actually learn this until we joined Action Coach, like 19 years into business. And by the way, we're like 21 and a half years in business now. But one of the things that we learned that I would tell everybody to start out with is we now have a weekly meeting that's on our calendar. It's every Thursday, 2 p.m. And we are accountable to that meeting. So we keep just a running Google Doc of all the topics that we need to talk to each other about, so that we're not being like, and it's not to say we never do this anymore, but we used to be like, oh, hey, I need to tell you this, or I need to talk about this. And the other person's right in the middle of a big project or whatever. And we were doing that constantly. And like I said, it's not like we don't ever do that now, but we're a lot better about not doing it, because if I've got something that I want to talk to Doug about, I put it on the agenda for this next week. And I think that helps us give each other more space in the workday. And, I will say, like, if anybody's figured out how to not bring your work into the kitchen at dinner time or whatever, I would love to get more tips on that too, because, we've been doing this for so long, and we really do try to minimize that. But it's hard because, we might be in the kitchen and I remember something about a meeting that I had this day and I want to tell Doug about it, and so it does flow over and like creep into dinner time and, after dinner time. And we try to be aware of that. But
best advice to give that entrepreneur that's going into business today?
I think hiring people that know more than you about a certain area is really important. I mean, I can tell you, I don't want to know everything there is to know about social media. I'm at the stage in my life where I was more than happy for us to find someone as our digital media director who knew a lot more than I did about that. And I'm happy about that, and there's times where I'm like, oh, that would be a great question for our digital media director to answer. So I think that's important. And I think that's a shift that you have to get to when you get okay with delegating or get okay with having somebody help you. I'll never forget when I was told by somebody from the outside that I needed to have help in business development, that I couldn't just continue to do it from soup to nuts all on my own. And it was at first a feeling of like total fear of, wait, but if I don't do it, is it going to be done the right way? And this was a decade ago. And I was able to get okay with having somebody help me in that area, more on that, admin side of it. And I think that the more you grow, and I guess it doesn't matter what size your business is, but if you're growing at all, like, you have to be okay with delegation. You have to be okay looking for people who know more than you about things. And then, be ready to, give them some of that control. You want them to take that initiative and run with everything, because the sooner you do that and the more you do that, the more you can breathe, because things are taken off your plate and you can spend time on something else that matters. And so I think that's a process.
And that's a wrap for today's epic conversation here on Epic Entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button, leave a review, share it, or hit that bell. But until next time, let's make sure you keep dreaming, take massive action, and stay epic.